That's a good clickbait title, wasn't it? It's completely honest though, as you saw in the video. Crashed my drone. First time I've ever crashed a drone. Probably nearly 4 years of flying a drone. So I figured a little bit of story time, tell you how it happened, what I ended up doing, how I managed to recover it, and if you crashed your drone, what you should do, some things I learned. So let's talk about that. So I was away at a cottage of the day in Quebec, and as you can see by that video, we were on a lake, and I was flying the drone parallel to a boat on the lake there. And get a really nice sunset shot. And I'm using the Mavic Pro 1 in case you didn't know. And there is no rear sensors on the Mavic Pro 1, just on the front. So if you're flying forwards and there's something coming in front of you, it knows and it will stop. But if you're flying backwards, it's got no way to tell. So I was flying the drone, what I thought was parallel to the lake. And I thought the trees behind me, if we were to do an overhead shot, I thought if the trees behind me were straight like that, and I thought I was flying this way. Turns out the trees were like this. So I was actually flying directly into the trees without knowing. However, when I got to like here, I quickly realized that and I tried to gain altitude quickly to try and get out the trees. When in hindsight, I should have gone forwards, but in my head, I just like, no, I'll just go up instead. Didn't work, ended up hitting the tree, fell down. The point I tried to gain altitude, I was 11 meters in the air and it just crashed straight down, hit some trees as it was going down, I think. Kind of like Plunk with the marbles going down there, if you ever played that game, and hit the ground. That was it. My first thought was, all right, which drone am I buying next? Because that one's done. And I was more concerned with the video because I've been shooting for a few days randomly here and there and I hadn't backed up any of the video. So after all that, I calmed down for like a minute and thought, you know what? It's a DJI drone, it's smart, it's GPS controlled, there's satellites in the sky, it's still on, I can see it's still on the map it shows me exactly where it is, it's 85 meters from me. So I was kind of down on the bottom of a hill here and I went up the hill onto the road, walked down and I was parallel directly on the map with where it said I was, so it should technically have been straight in front of me. And thankfully, because it was sunset, I could see a little red light down there flashing. So I managed to find it. I went down to the person's house that it was on, well, I thought that was their land, knocked on the door, speaking really, really fast because I was kind of panicked trying to find my drone. Quickly forgot I was in Quebec and people speak French as their first language. The guy was really nice, but he just needed me to repeat myself and slow down a little bit so he could understand. And turns out I was on his neighbor's property and his neighbor doesn't live there anymore. It was abandoned. He said it was fine, just go in there because it was abandoned. And it turns out the drone was upside down under like a picnic bench table that was just surrounded by overgrown grass. So very strangely upside down, completely on, and it appeared to be fine. So I took the drone back and immediately tried to do a test flight because that's what I'm like. I want to know if it's broken, I want to know if I've got to buy another one. I know I've got the video, but I want to know if the drone's broken. So I gave it a quick test flight and you know what? It appeared to be alright. It took off and it took off with no issues. I landed it with no issues. It was like a minute flight and thought, you know what, it's fine. I got really lucky. Next day I go to fly again and I'm flying out towards the lake and the gimbal is incredibly shaky and it's giving me all kinds of errors saying abnormal gimbal vibration. So I thought, actually it is broken. So I bring it back in. I take a look and everything appears to be alright, but the gimbal's shaking around quite a bit. So in here, it's shaking around too much. What had ended up happening was there's a little bit of plastic at the back here underneath the gimbal and it kind of sits under that plastic and it had just come detached. So I slid it back underneath the plastic, took off again, lo and behold, gimbal was completely fine. So I managed to fix it. Very happy. So Mavic Pro survived an 11 meter fall directly into a tree. Gimbal survived, it's completely fine. Battery got a bit scuffed on the top there, if you can see that. At least I thought it was fine. And then a couple of days later, I realized that one of these, the propellers, was actually nearly cut in half. I took a picture and I threw out the propeller. I don't know why. I should have kept it for this video. And I've been flying for another 2 days before I realized that. So in case you're wondering, the Mavic Pro can fly with a propeller that is nearly severed in half. So that was my experience with the crash. Now what I figure I'll tell you, if you haven't already picked it up, some things to be aware of in case you ever crash your drone. First off, it was my fault and I wasn't paying attention to where I was flying. I am licensed, in case you're wondering, because of the new silly rules that came out in June. So I'm flying legally. Make sure you do too. Make sure you have your sticker on there that has your registration number. Without that, you're not allowed to fly in Canada. Make sure you're aware of your surroundings. If you're gonna fly somewhere where you're close to something behind you, do a quick spin around first just to see what your environment's like. If you are flying somewhere where there's something behind you, you know what it is behind you, you know your distance, and you're not gonna crash and fall out the sky like I did. And remember that your phone and your gimbal are connected through GPS, so there is on your phone an accurate location of where it is, and it should be pretty accurate. Mine was spot on, so bear that in mind. And what I would say is, in case your battery is gonna die before you're able to get to it, screenshot on your phone exactly where that location that the drone crashed is. That way, if your drone does die, you can go back onto your phone, look at the screenshot, look where it is on the map, and then kind of cross-reference and hopefully find it that way. If the drone's still on, then just in real time, look at your phone and walk towards it. You should be able to see when you're right next to it, or on top of it, or below it if it's in a tree, and you'll be able to find it that way. Where I was, I didn't have any cell phone service, not one bar. The Wi-Fi wasn't working, so my map was actually completely blank. All I had was a marker on a white screen showing me where the drone was and then where I was, and I just kind of made myself get close to that other marker and found it that way. So if you don't have cell phone service, it's not a big deal. As long as the drone has satellite it's connected to, then you'll be fine. Be on the lookout for the lights. The Mavic Pro always has lights on. If you're at night or sunset like I was, you should be able to find it quite easily, whether it's up high in a tree or down below on the ground. Look for the lights, and yeah, you should be able to find it. And when you get back, make sure you do an inspection of your drone, test everything, look at the battery, make sure the battery's not swollen, make sure the propellers don't have any damage to them, make sure the gimbal's all right, make sure there's no stray cables or marks or cracks. If you've got a broken arm here, you shouldn't be flying with that. Overall, just have a good look at the drone, make sure it's ready to fly, do a quick test flight, don't go crazy, don't go and fly straight over water, because if there is an issue and it falls out the sky, then you're completely done. So fly over some grass at a low height, make sure everything's okay, and then you'll know whether your drone's alright or not. So there we go, that was my experience crashing a drone. Didn't anticipate making this video today, but one of my friends said it's a good idea, it's a good story, and should talk about my experiences. So I did. Alright, thanks for watching. Click those buttons down below, do those things, and I'll see you guys in the next video.